At any rate, joining us now from Miami, Florida, Carlos Curbelo, the GOP candidate for the United States House of Representatives. Carlos, it's so good to have you here on America's Forum.
Congressman, thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be with you.
And Carlos, obviously immigration affects us all, but given the history in Miami, we know the effects of immigration there. What do you make of Janet Napolitano's stated position that President Obama should use executive authority independent of Congress to act on so-called immigration reform?
Look, we need immigration reform in the United States, and we see that in the state of Florida every day. Step one should obviously be border security, which is what we've been saying for many years. But the president going it alone on an issue like this is, number one, very irresponsible and probably unconstitutional. So if the president is really interested in immigration reform, which, by the way, I don't think he is, because he promised he would do it in 2008 during the first year of his presidency and did nothing. But if he really is interested in it and wants it to get done, he would wait until a new Congress gets elected, come to the table and try to figure it out. This approach of going it alone is not good for the country, isn't good for the cause of immigration reform, and is probably unconstitutional.
Carlos, wouldn't you say both sides would say that he's failed, that President Obama has failed when it comes to the issue of immigration? Because there are people who want amnesty, people that don't.
Look, I tell a lot of Hispanic voters that I come across all the time, this president really does not show that he cares for Americans of Hispanic descent, because he made a promise to them in 2008 and didn't keep it. And by the way, even though I disagree with the executive action, he said he was going to take executive action towards the end of the summer, and then blatantly said that he would not proceed because it was going to harm his party politically. So that's exactly how much capital he's willing to invest in America's Hispanic community. Not very much at all. And I think a lot of Hispanic American voters are starting to wake up to this reality.
How do you think it will affect the midterms?
Well, look, people want immigration reform in my district. I'm supportive of it. I'm not supportive of amnesty. I'm supportive of reform, of a path to legalization, an earned path to legalization that requires people to own up to having broken the law when they initially came to this country. But we know that with this president, the likelihood of it getting done is very low. And I hope to be a voice in Congress in support of border security, in support of immigration reform, but we have to do it the right way.
Well, let's talk to you about the campaign you're waging against an incumbent. Democratic Congressman Joe Garcia, your opponent, has accused you of misleading voters by referring to Social Security and Medicare as a Ponzi scheme. What do you have to say in response?
Yeah, the irony, right? Medicare, that is the Democrats' number one campaign strategy. So I was talking to young people about how these programs are at risk for people that are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s today. We've all seen the projections. Social Security and Medicare are scheduled to become insolvent looking into the future. So my commitment is to, number one, preserve and protect these programs as they exist today for today's seniors and for those nearing the age of retirement, but to make sure that we make the adjustments that are necessary so that the programs are around for my generation, because I'd like to retire one day too. So this is the typical Democrat strategy of trying to pit young people against their parents and grandparents. It's divide and conquer. It's an effort to break the American electorate, the American people, into as many segments as possible and isolate them and make people angry. But I don't think it's working, because they've been telling seniors that Republicans are going to take away their Social Security and Medicare for probably 30 years now. It hasn't happened. It's not going to happen. What we want to do is the responsible thing and strengthen these programs so that they're available for today's seniors, but also for tomorrow's seniors.
Well, let's talk about something that is happening, voter fraud. Earlier on America's Forum, we were talking about the Washington Post did a recent article saying that there are allegedly, or could be, close to 18,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote. This has been a big issue. In fact, your opponent has actually been accused of voter fraud. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we know a lot about voter fraud in this district. Unfortunately, 3 people have gone to jail in the last couple years due to illegal activities in congressional campaigns. The incumbent congressman's chief of staff went to jail for absentee ballot fraud. By the way, while the congressman was looking into a camera just like this one, cutting ads 2 years ago, saying that it's time to clean up the mess and to turn the page on all the corruption that we've had here. As he was saying those words, his campaign was committing voter fraud. So I'm actually offering to turn the page for real. And by the way, my campaign has followed all the rules. We have not touched a single absentee ballot. And I hope that that my opponent, that the worst he's doing this cycle is lying. I certainly hope he's not committing voter fraud yet again.
Well, in the minute that remains, Carlos, that's you raised the issue. Do you believe the temptation is so great that Joe Garcia or others close to him are doing the same song and dance in terms of going out and trying to, quote, help people with their ballots or engaged in some sort of voter fraud? There's a minute that remains, sir. I'd like to get you to get the last word.
Well, Congressman, we all know that past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. So I would not be shocked if Mr. Garcia's campaign yet again is participating in voter fraud. This is a campaign that recruited and illegally financed a straw candidate in 2010. This is a campaign that committed absentee ballot fraud in 2012. So we don't have very high hopes for him. Our hope is that people will wake up and will finally turn the page on what has been a really rough last few years in our community with all these scandals and terrible headlines. We deserve a congressman that can represent us with integrity and effectiveness, and that's what I'm offering to the people of Florida's 26th congressional district.
And we will have to leave it right there. Carlos Curbelo, we thank you for your time. Good luck 1 week from today. America's Forum continues following this Newsmax Now update.